Good morning. Ready to roll. This is Martha Burich, and today we are going to be talking about habits, good habits and bad habits. This is day 2 of my series on habits. I'll be doing a few minutes every day, and then this coming Friday, July 7th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, I will do a 30 to 40-minute workshop on how to eliminate bad habits. Anyway, I want to tell you what makes me an expert on habits, good or bad. What's my background? Some people had asked me. Shout out Debbie C. So let me tell you, when I was 20, I was in college. I went to the University of Missouri, St. Louis, and I was going to enter into my sophomore year. Freshman year, I had the most fabulous psychology professor, Dr. David Ziff. And, I was very shy in retiring, and I do not know how this happened, but I had a grant and I had work study money. At the time, if you got a grant, you had to work to get the money. So you could be a teaching assistant or whatever they needed work in the office. And I thought to myself, wow, it would be so great if I could be Dr. Ziff's assistant, you know? So I don't know how I did it, but I screwed up the courage, my shy little self, and asked him. And sophomore year, I found myself his teaching assistant. And Dr. Ziff was an expert in behavior modification, also called operant conditioning. Now, this was in the 70s. It was still a very young field. B.F. Skinner had done his research in the 50s and 60s. And his research was on punishment and reward and how we develop behaviors. So here I am, getting this first class, first hand information from the top guy. All right, so a few years later, I go to Western Michigan University, and I went there specifically because I wanted to work with Dr. Richard Malott, who was an expert in operant conditioning, which is another word for behavior modification, which is another term for how we develop or develop good behaviors, bad behaviors, how we develop behaviors, get rid of behaviors. So, lucky me, I became his research assistant I was one of many for a while, and we were doing research on addiction. Very, very interesting. So there I am in college, and I had firsthand information on developing habits, good and bad. So then later on, I became a psychology professor. I did that for 10 years. Then I was a high school science teacher, special education. I did that for 16 years. So, in order to teach, you have got to learn about how to reward people and how to discourage behaviors, how to encourage behaviors. So I had a first-hand seat for that too. So I have a good 40-year, approximately, 40-year background, at least in habits, behavior modification. And also, when my son was about 6, I took parenting lessons, and they were all based on behavior modification. And I have to tell you, one day he came home. He was 6, and these lessons, they were for 12 weeks, 2 hours a week for 12 weeks. We learned something new each week. And I also wrote a book, which I didn't publish, but it was called Good Parent Sense, based on these principles. Anyway, Anthony comes home one day, he's 6, and he just drops his book bag on the floor. And so I forget what I said to him. And he looked at me and he said, "Are you trying to use that psychology stuff on me again?" And I said, yes, I am. And he goes, "Well, it doesn't work." Oh, and he was wrong. It was working so well. Anyway, so let's talk about good habits and bad habits today. I went to the gym this morning. That is a wonderful, good habit that I have developed over the past 6 months. I rarely miss a day. And that's something I want to tell you about habits. If you're developing a habit, make a decision And okay, if you miss a day, that happens. Don't miss two in a row, because then you start to go down that slippery slope. And the next thing you know, it's not a habit anymore. And also, you know what else helps tremendously to establish good habits and to break bad ones is to have a burning desire. For me to lose 40 pounds, to go to the gym every day, I had a burning desire. What was it? I was going to be going on a cruise. And I said, I am not going to go on that cruise fat, and I'm going to fit into this dress that I really, really love. And I hung that dress on my bedroom door. I saw it every morning when I woke up, and every night when I went to bed, and also every time I was in the room. And that dress was there reminding me of my goal. So I suggest you do that. Have that reminder of your goal. And I'll be darned if that didn't work, and it's still working to this day. In fact, I was at the gym today for an hour on the treadmill, and now I walk backwards on the treadmill. I can walk backwards on the treadmill at 2 miles an hour, level 4 incline out of 12. So I'm pretty impressed with that. But I'm not comparing myself to anyone but me. I walk as slow and as fast as I want to, as I'm comfortable. And you don't have to walk fast to get good benefits from the exercise. Just walking at a leisurely pace for 10 minutes helps. So do it. Go outside. Go walk to the mailbox. Go walk the dog. And, that's another thing about habits. We have to change our mindset about who we are, or these wonderful habits that we've built up. We're going to slip back. And I'll give you an example of my own life. During COVID, I lost 50 pounds walking my dog. And And it was fabulous, right? But I still had that old mindset of Fat Martha, and the weight came back on. You have to change your perception of yourself, and that's a whole nother thing that I'll be talking about in our series this month. I'll be doing daily 20 minutes every Friday. I'll do a 30 to 40-minute workshop, and then I have a really big workshop coming up at the end of the month. Now, okay, so we're trying to get rid of our bad habits and establishing good habits. Now, I think 40 years ago, no, 35, something like that, I quit smoking. Now, I had started smoking when I was 12 years old, and I smoked a pack a day most of my life. And one day, my husband and I were sitting out on the porch because once the baby was born, we stopped smoking in the house, and we smoked outside. So I think maybe Anthony was 2, something like that. He was 2 or 3. Anyway, so we were sitting outside on the porch, and we had 2 cigarettes left in the pack. And I said, Tony, let's smoke these and quit. And it worked. It worked. Now, one of the reasons it worked is because I couldn't smoke at work. I had to go outside. It was very difficult to smoke. It was becoming very difficult to smoke in the 80s, which was a blessing, definitely a blessing. And in order to smoke at home, because we had a child, we smoked outside. We didn't want that in the house, and that really worked for me. Now, my husband, Tony, God rest his soul, he's been dead for a few years. He died of liver cancer, 3 weeks diagnosis to death. Anyway, he was a very gentle soul. But Tony got a new job, and the stress was just too much for him, and he went back to smoking. But he was able to drop it again for a while. So we have to get that image of ourselves. See, I determined right away I'm a non-smoker. That day I put down those cigarettes. I said, this is it. This is my last one. I'm a non-smoker. And yeah, I had some tough times, but the thing was, I only smoked in certain places. I didn't smoke everywhere. Now, if you smoke everywhere, it's a lot more difficult to quit. That's why if you're trying to quit a habit, break it down just to one place. So because I smoked in very few places, the urge rarely came up because I was rarely in those places. When I went to work, when did I go outside? I didn't go outside. I was in the building most of the time. The only time I went outside was to smoke. So I was rarely triggered to go smoke. Now, on break times and things, it passed my mind, but because I wasn't going to the same place that I had been smoking in the past, it didn't affect me that much, and I was able to overcome it. And also, use techniques like just, if you get the urge, wait 5 minutes, read a book, go talk to someone, make a phone call. So you delay. That's called the delaying tactic. Okay, there are a lot of big words for some of these things, but if you think it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult. So think it's going to be easy. Say, okay, I'll have some challenges, but I'm going to get through this. I am going to get through this. You know, how, how did you learn to do anything? They were tough times. How did you get over your shyness? How did you get over oh, anxiety? Now, and that's something we're going to talk about too. I had such anxiety when I was young. That's why I'm so surprised. How did I ever screw up the courage to go ask Dr. Sif to be his assistant? And the same with Richard Malott. Dr. Richard Malott, how did I ever? I was so shy and had such anxiety back in those days. Oh, goodness gracious. Hi, Shelley. Hey, thanks for being here. How you doing? Well, we're talking about anxiety now and how, anxiety, then you develop all kinds of habits associated with the anxiety. This Facebook Live, someone had told me to do this months ago, and I was afraid. I was afraid, oh no, I can't go live. What if I say something wrong? What if I do something wrong? I got myself all in a tizzy for absolutely no reason. So, yes, let's think about building up these good habits and breaking down the bad habits. And I wanted to talk to you about that. A lot of times we think because we have bad habits it's a moral failure. We overeat. It's terrible, I'm a bad person. Or we drink or take drugs, whatever it is. We think it's a moral failing of us, and we chastise ourselves and really get down on ourselves. That does not help. You're not going to help yourself with that. Forgive yourself for being human. Oh, gee, excuse me, I'm human. You know, I turn to instant gratification sometimes. And some people take this to really, extremes. I remember when I was younger, I absolutely hated myself because I would overeat sometimes. Absolutely. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I felt so bad compared to other people. All my cousins were wearing, I think they were all size 6 and 8, and I was a 10. So I was a moose. I was a moose compared to them. And I used to chastise myself something terrible. Oh, Martha, you're so fat. Shame on you. Blah, blah, blah. How did that help me? It didn't. It didn't one bit. So get over that. Get over the fact that you don't think that, habits, we're people, we're human. If you have a quote unquote bad habit that you'd like to break, okay, just think, this is something I don't want to do anymore. Don't get into all this moral chastising and believing that somehow you're less than or bad. Please, come on. How many people have you seen? Well, Diamond Dallas Page, have you seen any of his people that he has taken, people losing 200, 300, 400 pounds, who felt absolutely terrible about themselves, one step at a time. Some of them had to do exercises. They could barely get out of the bed. They had to do exercises in the bed, exercises in the chair. Start where you are. Whatever your habit is, start where you are. And unless you're an alcoholic or a heavy duty drug addict that you absolutely must stop that behavior, most of it you can go back a little bit. My goodness, for heaven's sakes, yes, you can eat pizza. Yes, you can eat donuts if you're on a diet, quote unquote. And don't go on a diet. Don't go on a diet. Just decide, hey, today I'm going to do something different. And I'm not a bad person. I'm a human person who makes mistakes, who does things. But don't fall into that trap of instant gratification. And if you have been, it's time to stop. But breaking habits, breaking bad habits, getting good habits, if you'll let it, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. And it makes it so much easier. Okay, I had this terrible fear of Facebook Live. And Debbie Calendine told me to do it, and no, I was afraid. I thought, well, I'll record it and then I'll put it on. And then I had to overthink it and overthink it. Well, that was fear. A lot of our bad habits we don't quit because of fear. And I had this fear of people criticizing me, of saying something wrong. And so finally, I got challenged. She just challenged me and said, "Oh, just do it. Just do it." I thought, "Oh, what's the worst that could happen?" It couldn't be any worse than me singing Jolene off key oh, in front of a bunch of people. So, and that's another story, and I'll tell that story again another day. But yes, so guess what? Guess what? And yesterday, I was super excited and I had all this super energy, and today I'm calm. And yes, so each day I do it, it gets easier and better. And it'll be the same for you. Each day you don't smoke, each day you don't drink, each day you don't eat a donut. It just gets easier. Each day you go up and say hello to someone and you were shy and afraid. That's another thing we're going to talk about, being shy and afraid. I had to get over that. How did I do it? I would go to the grocery store. I was so afraid of people, but I would think, okay, I have got to get over this. What am I going to do? And I would just say hello to people in the grocery store. I had to practice that, saying hello to people. I was so shy. And some would say hello, some would ignore me. And I would, what I said to myself? I said, you know what? I did my part. I said hello. Most people were so friendly and they'd say hello back. And then we'd have a lovely conversation. So if your thing is shy, just start to say hello. Good morning. What a beautiful day. Good to see you. That's all you have. I had a friend, oh my goodness, she would talk to anybody. And I would be like, oh my, her name was Debbie. And she would talk to anybody. And I thought, how do you do that? She goes, Martha, you just go up and say, hi, how you doing? And it still took me a long time because I was so fearful, so fearful. Alrighty, well, you know what? We've done about 17 minutes today, and I think that's enough for today. And I'll be back on tomorrow. I was going to do this at the gym, but they play music at the gym the whole time, and that's too distracting. So maybe we'll get outside one of these days and do this. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, and I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, and remember, Friday, July 7th. No, I think it's July 7th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to give a nice longer workshop about how to stop these bad behaviors and gain the good behaviors. And also, if you need some extra help, direct message me. I've got a couple of programs that'll probably help you if you want to get started right away. All right, thanks again so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Hey, you make it a fabulous day and go say hello to somebody today. Bye.